Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Mark. I'm with Gov Directions, and we're here today to talk to you about AI. I'd like to give everybody just a couple of minutes to get into the room, so we'll get started here at 2:02. As you come into the room, just remember some basic rules. First, let's see here. Note takers generally are not allowed in here. We're going to keep a copy of this, and we'll have notes at the end and a copy of the actual video as well. Second is please maintain your mute status so everybody can have the opportunity to enjoy the session. If you have questions, make sure you ask those in the chat box. Also know that this is a recorded version and we're live on YouTube for your privacy to make sure you are aware of that. And I will give time at the end to ask questions, but you're welcome to ask questions, of course, in the chat and I'll in the box there, and I'll try to step into that and see those questions occasionally as we go through. But at the end, I'll open it up to those who come to us into the live session. And those who joined us on YouTube, thank you. Make sure you actually, go down there and subscribe to the channel so that we can, expand it to others. So make sure everybody has an opportunity to learn. Gov Directions, of course, is based here in Atlanta, and we've been in this sector since 1998. We learned very quickly that it's not just the fine. We, of course, are the largest aggregator of bids, primarily United States and Canada, and providing those to you. But we learned that, it's also the process of winning and learning how to win and the tools and making sure you have those available to you to really help secure that win, the government contracting space. And as a part of that, I think we're all learning these days that very rapidly that you've got some, the AI tools, artificial intelligence, that's out there. It's something that we've learned we've got to use, and we're being told we got to use them. And so there's a lot of us, see here my age here, we're, sometimes can be a little bit overwhelmed. And I like to always to come to you and sort of and try to take the mystery out of these tools so that we can come to understand they're meant to be used the appropriate way to help you secure that win. And I want to try to show you some techniques that I've learned myself, and I've worked with others to help them understand, so that we don't fall behind. But also just remember that it's as great these tools are, that the government itself is looking to work with you. You are the subject matter expert, and they don't need the same AI generated proposal over and over again from everybody who's sending them a response. And so you'll find a lot of them have the same details. And so you can, you can, if you're someone is evaluating an actual proposal, then you can step back and you can see which one of those are machine generated. And so it's important that you understand that as a user, but also how the evaluator sees that. And so we don't want to end in that non-responsive pile. I think, let's see here. I've got a poll, and it's there. Let me see if I have to launch it. Keep it simple, and I'm going to launch it now. So maybe it can help you understand your stage of AI use for those who are coming to us in this room here. I think a lot of us that maybe have joining me today are somewhat new, and here this is sort of an introductory class as well. So, but I want to see if you are using those. So make sure you take that poll. It should pop up there in front of you as we sit here today. Today we're going to spend, I would think, about 30 minutes together. I'm not going to rush us. But it's important that that we stay within a schedule that works within your business part too. We all have to earn a living out there, and that's important. So here it is. We got a couple of minutes at the hour, so let's just get started. Once again, my name's Mark Knowles. I'm one of the founders of Gov Directions. I've been in this sector now I think I was told to stop after saying 30 years, but it's been longer than 30 years. And just a quick background, we not only have launched Gov Directions, RFP Delivery, Gov Advice, and Gov School, but I've actually worked as a consultant to government through a contracting process in my lifetime. In fact, I've bid and won over 400 active RFPs in some 34 states. So that's a lot of actual, a lot of bids that I actually had to put in order to get that level. But I've got that experience of not only drafting responses, winning an actual contract, and then performing the work, and then a lot of times in a repeat cycle. So I've got that experience. And then my final experience, and one reason I like to teach is I'm also an adjunct at a major university where I teach in the School of Public and International Affairs, and I teach future contractor officers how to write the RFPs and bids that you actually are responding to. If I do have a gift that I'm thankful for, it's the ability to translate, sort of be taking government information and translate that to a business owner to help them understand what a government's actually seeking in this process. And so I've tried to do that in my career. GovSchool is a service that we've started, and you try to use a quick sort of a PowerPoint. All of these slides will be available to you at the end in our YouTube channel, and we also will send a copy of this video to those who registered today. So thank you. So we're getting some good results. About equal half to half have actually used AI to prepare a proposal. Overwhelming majority, over two-thirds, are using ChatGPT versus the others. And then, of course, those who've actually two of you have actually won a proposal using AI, and others have not. And then about half of you have not actually done that. So I would think that's probably a good representative sample of our entire database of users. We have some, just over 140,000 companies that use our services in some ways, and so it's that's probably very representative of that group. And I think it's growing in the number of individuals using based on the day-to-day interaction I get from our clients. And one thing to remember whenever you tackle a new idea, a new product, a new service, a new system, and it's okay to be a little uneasy about it. Being scared is fine, but the problem occurs when you stay scared. So we don't want you staying scared. We want to take the mystery out of it. This is one of my favorite quotes. I like these quotes that are somewhat funny occasionally, but this is from Taming the Dragon when Garber said that. But being scared is okay. You can look at something and be overwhelmed by it. It's okay. The problem is if you just discount it and you just stay that way and you don't try to address it, because this has really revolutionized the market. I was trying to explain to someone the other day, and you always use these sort of examples of how to think. But I said, it's kind of like back in the day whenever we were working with maybe Lotus 1, 2, 3 and Excel. We didn't know which one to go with, but we knew kind of we had to use a spreadsheet. And so we learned and we explored, and now I find ourselves with a dominant system that we're all kind of sharing and doing that. And so I think that's what's sort of working itself out. We have our own AI tool at GovDirections. At the govdirections.com, we've built that, and so you can see that at the top of the page. I'll show you as we go along. This is about the prompt, learn to prompt, and that's a big part of it. But what we have found too, that a lot of the systems that are there are trying to build the AI tools within their to help you write proposals, but it's captured within their own systems. And to honestly, that's maybe not I don't think it's necessarily the best way to do things, because then you are tied. And a lot of us, of course, we want you tied to our systems, but you got to have some flexibility as a contract officer, or contracting, or a contractor, and all the folks involved in all this, that you use different systems until we really do see which ones that are best out there that can help us in this process. And then how do we actually use that? I know a lot of individuals like to go in and have an AI tool write the entire proposal for them, not really realizing, that governments are somewhat incremental. And in that process, they don't really move quickly. And they've got a lot of times have forms and documents that you have to have completed in a specific way. And in the tools that I'm noticing, and I've become a pretty strong user of them, but they tend to state the information within the actual RFP response as opposed to on the form the government wants you to use. And then while the government appreciates that to some extent, they put you as non-responsive and you go into that pile where you never hear from. I mean, you don't want to have that happen. And so you have to pay attention to that overall process. It's not the same as a private to private transaction where you and I potentially I can give you a proposal. I can have an AI system generate it very quickly, give you a proposal, and then I can move on. It just doesn't work that way in government. And while it may one day, it just is not there right now. And not only that, but each, as you know, it's a fragmented system. State, local, and federal agencies all operate independently. And not only that, they frequently can change. So they might be using one tool today and another tool tomorrow. And then you're constantly chasing that. There is no, it's really fragmented. And I can't, that that creates a business problem. We have always attempted to offer a business solution, and that's in for that fragmented system. It's built on that home rule philosophy that we want to make our decisions as local as possible in the United States specifically, but most industrialized countries the same way. We want that city council to be actively involved in the selection of a company. We want that county commission, and so they all have their own methods of doing that, and that decision making is as localized as possible, and it keeps the community engaged. And so that is not necessarily conducive to a one size fits all. In fact, I initially uh, call this session here, one size does not fit all, so that we have to be flexible in that approach. Now, today, before we actually want to get started, I'm going to go very quickly over the whole concept of an RFP in the public sector and just give you some background. As you know, governments themselves, and this is going to take about 30 minutes total today for those of you who are on a time restraint. Um, Governments use a lot of different contracting instruments, and while they're all different, they all do have some similarities. But at the end of the day, these requests for information, requests for qualification, source of salt, invitation to quote, invitation to bid, request for proposal, which is a more creative, they all have this basic definition of a solicitation, meaning that they're actively you're seeking you as a subject matter expert in your field, to provide them a business solution to their problem. And they want you to take it seriously, and they don't want you just to take what they've done, sometimes a year in the making, to develop that document that you're responding to, and just throw it into some sort of online tool to spit out a response in just a few minutes without much thought put into it. It's just not a winning formula for you. And I want to just stress that governments can tell this. I can drop in as a professor. I drop in all of these papers, and I can say, "Can you show me the ones that have machine writing?" And it just tells me. And so it's everybody's doing that these days. So I don't want that from students. The individual contracting officer doesn't want that from you either. So you have to understand really how to prepare these in the right way. And if you are going to use a tool to improve your writing or to improve your analytical skills, to improve the overall process, you use it as a tool for you individually, not to give them that specific result back, just straight up and straight out of the box from what they're doing. And I've seen people do that, and they've sent it to me for review. I'm like, there's no reason to review this. You're not even going to get past the front door. It's going to go straight into the box there on the side that says, "I'm not bothering wasting my time on this one." You got to be careful about how you do that. And you got to respond. The RFP itself gives you the layout of how they want you to have a response back, and you got to pay attention to that. And so when you go in, you're going to see these typical parts that we see over and over again within all of the types of contracted instruments. It's all built on the concept of the theory of the firm. You have this specific expertise that they're looking to procure and to buy and to use, and in order to do that, and to keep you all in a comparable way, so they can evaluate you in a fair way in a traditional public sector marketplace. They define these parts of these documents. They'll give you a statement of work, and just to point out, that it is the government's responsibility at the beginning to practice we refer to as the ABCs of writing, or of explanation, accuracy, brevity, clarity. And so they have to make sure that they do that, and they use these parts to accommodate that. That statement of work has to be concise. And so when you read that, I always, jump ahead and said, whenever you see that statement of work, it should say to you, "You're the one that I wanted to find." And so when you look at that RFP, before you go anywhere else in that document, it needs to say that to you before, and then you can move forward. And in fact, whenever I look at an RFP, and I've actually trained the agents that I use, the models that I use, to tell me that right away. I said, first thing you do is in the indicators of success, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. But I want you to tell me, is this the one I wanted to find? And it gives me back that, and keeps it fun to some extent. Say, yes, this is the one you wanted to find, and then you move forward with it. But the technical specs in the document, what's expected of you, the schedule, how it's going to actually, how you have time to respond, how you actually have to do the work itself. A lot of times our compensation schedule is built around the actual timing of the deliverables within the actual there. So they'll give you that list of deliverables, when something's expected. How are we going to be able to finance this in the right way as a private company serving the public sector? The contract terms and conditions, sometimes buried 10s, 20s, 30s, 100 pages, and you're expected to know that somewhat quickly. So we can find that the AI tools can really help us. But I can tell you this, that I still, while I may have it do an overview of me, but I've noticed over and over again, it misses some key portions. So I have to train the model in such a way that it picks up on the things that are important to my company. And I don't just expect it to understand what I'm looking for without telling it, without training it in the process. So it's teaching it, taking that mystery out of it. It also will give you the format of the proposal. And I frequently have to remind the models that I use that here's the format, here's how we're going to do this. Sometimes I find myself talking to the darn thing, and I'm like, this is weird. But I say, to it that we cannot violate the format of the proposal that government's seeking, because at that point we will be non-responsive. And non-responsive basically at the end of the day means you was wasted all your time. And you don't want to have that happen. And your qualifications and experience and keeping that in a format so that you can not only continue to grow it, but also make it specific to the RFP that you're responding to. So whenever I'm working with municipal governments or cities, I want to tell them about my experience with the city governments, not with county governments, not with the state agencies that I work for, but with cities and vice versa and so forth. And having that segmented in such a way, and you're going to want to do that, and keeping that information in an organized way. So you're working, I think, twice as hard sometimes these days to make sure that the models themselves understand who you are and how you're going to best serve them. And then, of course, costing is so important. I know a lot of times we'll use AI tools. I've seen individuals do this, come back and have the AI tool tell them, without much support, except more just some internet research, which is not necessarily the best way to do things. To determine the actual cost to actually respond back. But pay attention to how the government wants you to break down that cost and prepare a response to them. And I'll tell you that the more information you gather, we have some 7 million records here over the 20 plus years that we've been doing government contract aggregation. So we have all these records of what wins and what doesn't win and details like that. So we have that data, we can just really pull it up and have our tools to give some very solid answers, and to the point where I'm actually able to train the models to say, I want to know where 75% of the market is most likely going to be at, because I always bid at the third quartile in my bids. I don't really bid low. I don't, and I don't think it's a wise strategy to do that. And so I have success. I do lose some, but of course, I'm really going after maximum margins, as well as getting paid for the expertise that I've built over 30 years of experience. So that's important. A lot of times when we're brand new, we don't have that. And so we have to maybe bid in the 25 percentile. And so we would tell that. So we train the model not only where the market's actually at, but we took different points in the market and where we want to really be at, with a logic behind it that helps us win. And then, of course, always, 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 and I found the best way to use the AI tools that I've been using is to help me in the evaluation before I submit it. And you know why? And it's a basic reason, and that is there is really no school evaluation. Most organizations, they'll come up with some standard ways to evaluate an RFP and give it some weight, so that maybe knowledge is the highest weight, or potentially experience, or whatever. So there's a breakdown, maybe 5 different factors that they use. And then they go out and they pick about 10 people in the organization, city manager here, maybe the city council member there, or the county commissioner, and then maybe somebody in the staff. And they say, hey, we got these RFPs back evaluated using these criteria. Well, that's not really, with no training, nothing else. And so my AI tools actually do a better job. And so I can go in and I will go through really a staged process, where I start with one evaluation and move it and continue to evaluate on it with a clear instructions that I want 100 out of 100 points, and tell me how to get that 100 using the evaluation criteria that the government has told us, within all these typical parts that they've actually um, went out and built within an RFP itself. And so I use it in that model way, in that training way, to really improve the final result. And I do that sometimes 8 or 9 times, okay, till we get to that point where it's ready to go. Now, with all of that said, you heard me talk briefly about indicators of success. Corny little thing, but at the end of the day, it works. I've been doing this for, I think, I started about 27 years ago, where I said, okay, now I need to make this make sense to me. I'm kind of an analytical guy, and I'm like, I don't want to just be throwing darts. That's not really rewarding. It's frustrating, and it needs to be in an organized way. Organization is key. Otherwise, you have chaos, and you don't want chaos in government contracting. Not only that, but as you probably know, we're entering into an $8 trillion marketplace. We probably will be at next year. And that's jumped from some 4.5 in the last 5 years. So it's a big, huge marketplace. The war that we're finding ourselves in, a lot of different transactions are occurring that are pushing up the cost of procurement in general, and so it's growing. And so that can be overwhelming to most companies. Some 50,000 active bids and RFPs at any given time. And so you want to organize them in the right way. And for goodness sakes, you don't want to be scared away from the overall market. You just want to organize it in the right way. I know I see systems out there that say, oh, we got 7,000 to 8,000 bids. Well, you're missing out on 20 to 30, 40,000 other active opportunities that exist that probably can be much more likely to be in your wheelhouse than some of the ones that are the more limited amount that are in some of these other systems. So you want to use an aggregation tool, ours, that will help you really identify the entire marketplace and then weigh the ones that really mean something to you. So and I actually go through and I try to analyze every RFP in the same, you making sure I use the same method. That way I can really tell which ones are the ones that match me. And so the indicators of success, we have a form, and let me see if it clicks through. Here we go. And so the form itself, it's you can develop it yourself. You can take ours. In fact, I'll drop this into the chat right now. And if you want to go in and actually take this form, fill out this form, make sure I got the right words. I think I can get to the chat. I think I'm missing it. Wait, where's the chat settings? Okay, I'm gonna have to go back and do that in just a minute. There it is, chat there. Okay. And they give you all these windows these days. I get so lost sometimes. Okay, I've dropped that in there. There's the form. And if you fill that out, I'll send you your own indicators of success after this meeting, and we'll summarize that for you. But ideally, you're going through, there's a little video you can watch about the concept, but you're basically saying, here are the top 10 indicators that I'm looking for whenever I actually go in and look and try to match to a bid that I'm working with. A lot of us come in, we've got a specific expertise. I work in compensation and classification work, essentially helping cities and counties determine how much to pay maybe the firefighter or the police officer, and how to keep that market competitive. And that's what I was trained in my graduate research studies to do. And I've done that over my life. But I have indicators that I look for. Now, all of us can sometimes be in different marketplaces at different times. And for example, when I first started, I had to feed my family. I didn't really care where it was at. I'd go anywhere. I had my first contract. It took me about 7 months to win. It was in Vermont. Back then, we didn't really have the internet, and we didn't have all these tools to really get that information in front of us. So it took a little bit more time to really get matches. But there, I would have done just about anything to make sure I got that first deal. And then I grew from that. But now I have more select indicators, more life work balance issues. So the things are different and more important. I don't want to go anywhere. Specifically, I mean, I want to stay within about a 3 to 4 hour range from where I'm at. So that could be an indicator. I could also make sure it's a smaller government. I like to work with smaller governments as opposed to a large government, and maybe 10,000 to 25,000 in population. Maybe I like to work with organizations that have a municipal background, so or maybe municipal services at least. So there's some counties that fit that model, and so whatever that is to you, that you are looking for. Sometimes I have clients who come to say, "Hey, I really want to be a middle person, middleman, middle woman, and I'm not. I'm in everything." So that could be that's an indicator. Say, I'm looking for things that are easy to be a middle person for. That could be so you have to define what it is for you, but both not only just business aspect, but also life work balance. What's important to you, the project times lines, things of this nature. But at least 10. I have about 20, frankly, that I work with. But for this session today, I'm going to just show you the top 10 that I look for. But you can go through, fill this out, and use it for yourself. But you can do something simple. You see the same question is being asked over and over again. It's just a way to organize your thoughts. And not only that, but once you're done, To then, go to the next step and try to frame those in such a way that where the weight is at. For example, is the weight the size of the organization? It is for me. I don't really want to work. City of Atlanta, I love the city of Atlanta. I lived here. It's the city hall's across the street from my home. I live on the loft on the Beltline. It's a great place, but I don't want to work for the city of Atlanta. It's too big. It just would overwhelm me, and I wouldn't do a good job at it. So you come to learn these things, and you want to make sure it fits you the right way. So take those indicators of success and build those, and I'm going to show you how we're going to analyze with them. And then so when you go in and you have some instructions, in order to take the mystery out first of all, you got to understand that you're in control. Okay, that's the first thing. You really are in control until you're not in control. Okay, so right now we want to try to maintain control. And believe it or not, these tools are so great. As you start using them, you're like, wow. Sometimes I find myself I can literally spend all day. My wife doesn't like for me to do that, but I could spend all day just using my models to really come to understand certain things. And I started asking other questions and get a little off. But I use them. I use it for a lot of the clients that I work with too. It helps me, and it's not really all this concept about it's replacing people. In our line of work, especially in a small business, it really allows you to do more, and it allows you to have you be extremely much more productive in your workflow. I can see maybe very large organizations trimming, but in our organization, it's helped us do. But I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say 10 times as much as we were used to be able to do by using having these tools at our fingertips to make it work. Don't choose the right prompt. This is all about prompting. You may have not have heard that yet, but just like in any engagement with any sort of communication, it's about the way you ask questions. I was a lobbyist the first 10 years of my life, and the first thing I learned from a great lady who gave me, who's my mentor, she said, you always start off with a when you meet somebody, you go to meet somebody, you start off with that question. I'm seeking your advice. Help me out. Help me understand. And so the same way here, it's all about the way you prompt something and the way you engage with a communication tool to make sure you get the right answer back. And it oftentimes, and I hear words like, "Oh, the machine ghosts or the system ghosting is creating things. It's not real." That's because you're doing something wrong, not the system. It's just to say it straight up. You got to learn how to prompt it in the right way. Okay. If you don't, then you're going to get answers back that are as vague as what you asked. And then that's the issue. You got to be that's sometimes it scares us away from using these systems. Okay. So we're going to take that mystery out. We're going to write down what we want to know, and we're going to ask specific questions and give it specific instructions. And then not only that, but make the systems pay attention. I call it taming the dragon, but make it pay attention. Make it give you the answers that you're looking for. Remind the system over and over again, of the models that you build. Remind it that this is what you're looking for. You do not want information that is not factual, that cannot be referenced, or it has to be accurate. You need to check things twice, and so forth. And also, just because it's fast, believe me, it's fast. Don't be in a rush. Okay. Always take your time with these systems, and don't just take if you are using something for writing, remind it, because I think 9 times out of 10, proposals come back the same way. This particular, I did not use AI to write this PowerPoint, but it's set up in bullets and it looks bullety. That's great in a PowerPoint, but it's not so great in a RFP response to a government. I don't think so. When I read them, I want to know really what I'm doing, not just the short, quick answer. Now, when I go back and do a presentation, I might put it in some prompts, but not the actual RFP. It'd be very rare that you actually pick up a request for proposal and see it written in a prompt way. And so, why are you submitting that response back that way? It doesn't. So, make it speak the language that you speak, train it in your voice, and we could constantly remind it to do that. And then have colleagues review it, not just the system itself. I do both. Okay. I'm actually probably starting to lean more and more toward the system reviewing it. But have your colleagues review what the final results are. And I have my primary business partner, Mike, and he reviews all the things I send out. And so sometimes he's joshing with me about certain parts of it, but generally it's a, hey, this looks good, this doesn't look good. Maybe you missed this, maybe you missed that. And it's important that you spend time to actually do that, specifically when you're looking at contracts that are oftentimes in the millions of dollars in range. Spend some time on it. Okay. And then, of course, always personalize it. Don't use machine writing. Train your system to be professional, but also to be in your voice. Okay, and you can do that by things you've written in the past and helping use it as an example, and do that. And I just encourage that. It should be your voice in the process. And then not only that, but when you copy it and paste it onto the actual piece of paper, and hopefully you're doing that. You're not just sending the PDF that's clearly and referenced in such a way that everybody knows that it's a PDF document from an AI tool, that you're not doing it that way, that you're actually rethinking it, reframing it, and you're reading through, changing words that are necessary, because at the end of the day, they want your response, not necessarily that machine response. And just to remember that you're going to get better. Okay, because you're going to have practice, and the only source of knowledge is experience, and you'll learn as you go along. Keep and learn from that. Don't give up, and don't certainly don't make it so mysterious. Okay, so as with all, let's just dive in and go in, and just know that when you start these tools, that the sky isn't the limit. It's just the beginning. So we're getting started, and that's from Hiccup in the movie. So make sure you go home today and later on, and you can watch that. You've seen the indicators of success form. Maybe some of you fill that out now. But the first part is actually is searching and finding. And I'm not sure if you're using our Gov Directions tool, which has been with us since 2006 with very little change. People love it. It's a great tool to present to you very in a linear way active opportunities, or our more advanced RFP delivery, great tool as well, a little bit more advanced information, but in different ways to actually go in and search and present to you and track. And I like both. This one's my favorite. We've invested, we've had this one now since 2022. The data itself, more information is RFP delivery. The good news at our services is regardless of which one you like the most, and the reason why we didn't just flip the switch one day and make everything go straight to our new system is because we had so many folks say, I like this service, and I like the way it is. But we had others who said, I really want more advanced tools, more search tools. And so we've built basically two audience to try to make sure we understand what you're looking for. But with that said, you know what, and here we got a new search style that coming in and say, hey, what am I looking for? I'm looking for compensation studies, and search, and then it'll go through and give me the ones that are most likely a best match to me. And I can actually step into it in such a way that I'll see the ones that rank up with me at the highest confidence level, and then I can go in and actually tap into one and see that. Same way, a little bit different here at where I'm storing my filters, and I'm doing more routine searches over and over again. And in my filters, I'm going in and looking specifically for compensation studies. I have those and I can run those at any time. And this is a demo account, so I end up getting a lot of these there. Let's see. Not that I didn't save that one earlier, but I go in, I can save it, and I can run those. It always will show me the most recent RFP and bid first, but also the others one that are actually there. But I can come in and see, for example, here, type in a keyword here, and then I can go in and say, I'm doing compensation studies and HR work. And I'm really interested in specifically in Georgia and South Carolina, someplace close, and go ahead and help the system a little bit with the ones I'm actually wanting to go work on. Every time I add a qualifier, I'm potentially limiting my results. Federal designations do not apply to local and state, so I would zero out any local and state bid. I don't want to do that. And so in this case here, but if I was a service disabled, for example, I could say I'm really looking for service disabled bids in my area, and I can even use the NAICS code, very precise filtering. And this additional a method of actually searching is a preferred way for a lot of you, so we have that available, and it allows me to go in really quickly and see this data. And just as to point out that it's geospatially tied, another benefit of the RFP delivery system, so that if you are, really focused in on down to the block level, it may be painter, plumber, carpenter, things of this nature, where you actually can zero in on an actual bid in your neighborhood, in various industries. Very powerful tool to let you see where the actual bids are actually at. And so, but in this case here, I'm interested in this bid. I found the bid that's of interest to me here, and I want to step into it and take a look at it. So there's three there I might want to run, but this one's actually in Greenwood County. That's not the one I put out earlier. I didn't see that one. I should have looked at that one. But I was going to get one that I can do as a test. Aiken, one of the best communities in the South, great place. I've had an opportunity to work there before, and it's just a good organization, a good area. So this is something I'm interested in. Always when I see something in the system. I want to make sure I capture it. Okay. So, because there's so many bids, there are actually 52,000 active listings right now. There's going to be 5,000 new ones today. 5,000 will be awarded out today. It's a constant flow of bids. We're the, of course, largest aggregator and going to get those information to you in the right way. So whenever I see that, I want to make sure I capture it. View your capture folder. This is your pipeline. I can keep it there as long as I like. So after this, after June 11th, this bid drops out of the front system, I can still store it there so I can potentially remind myself to go back and look at it. A lot of us are in businesses that the bids come out every year or every 3 years, and this particularly about every 7 to 8 years. So I can maintain that flow. Our capture bid system has bids in there for 20 years now. Okay, so it's a good way. We've been around. We're going to be around, and so you can keep that in there in that folder for yourself. But in our system, unlike others, we want you to leave us. We want you to go. You go get the work. Okay, so you leave us, you go directly. And in this case here, so I'm now at the city of Aiken, and I may actually go in and actually register to gain access to it. Sometimes we go in, we'll see a third party provider that actually is working with the government to manage the procurement. We don't do that. We want everything to be somewhat open. We don't really care if they use others. You don't have to pay. Every state now allows you to have access to the information. You may have to be required to register, maybe a good thing. Some of them offer some good services, so I don't want to discount them too much, but we don't, we're an aggregator. So if you go to any of those, just know that all of them work with a limited amount of groups, amount of organizations, and none have expansive services there of coverage. And so that's important. You don't want to miss opportunity. But in this case here, Aiken uses Google. They have basically that sort of laserfish type system. I can go into it. I can then pull out the actual bid, and it was there. And then I'll go into it. It's very simple. I'm at Aiken's time. And now I have the bid in front of me, the RFP in front of me. So what am I going to do with it? I'm going to take a look at it usually, but then I'm going to say, you know what, I want a second opinion. I want an AI opinion. Okay, so with that said, I'm going to start giving you some tools that really kind of go in. Now I use a desktop chat GPT. Okay, and this is the website side of things, and as a tool here. Now I would also just point out that RFP, excuse me, GovDirections has prompt to win, and our basically, we like an eagle eye. We don't usually call it that now. We call it GovDirections search, but it's like once you log in, you can actually come in and use this type of system to review things as well. Okay, it is limited to users who are logged in, but you can come in and a prompt is a free tool for you to actually do it. Now we organize the flow of the AI in such a way that it doesn't overwhelm you. We're trying to take the mystery out of it. We tell you, first of all, whenever you first start and you're using it, you're going to introduce your company, okay, in any system, and your capability statement becomes so important. And so it understands uh, who you are and what you do and information about your company. Now, we have more advanced services where we actually will work with you to develop tools to allow you to manage the flow of information and details, tie your online information, basically the library of information about you that's there. You can have a My Drive added to your system, and at this point, you go in and learn how to use the indicators of success analysis, and we have templates there with prompts and other documents that you have here. Let me see here. There we go. I got prompts, best prompts that you can use. It's basically full of great tools to really help you get going in this marketplace. But a part of the process is understanding, what kind of information is being sought about you, and you can tie your models to your Google Drive, and then you can have your executive summary about your company, all your qualifications, all the resumes of all your employees, your certifications that you have, the forms that you commit to, the methods and deliverables of your work. Your organization, how do you actually do your work, to go on location, how much time you spend on your work, performance, examples of your work, organization. Really does help you take the mystery out of things. So you keep everything organized. It's there. This is not in our system. Okay, it's on Google Drive, and we purposely have done our business this way. Okay, we're built when we started our company, it was built on basically an understanding with our client base. Yeah, first of all, we're not going to lock you into any long-term contracts. Okay, you got to have the flexibility as a small business to go where you need to go and be successful. Now, we want you to stay with us, and about 72% of you stay with us after any full given year, and that's important to us. And the second is that, it's built on that proverb of teaching. And so that I want you to understand how to do this so you can go off and do it yourself. And because, if I give you something and tie you into something, then you got it's not necessarily the same end result. We want you to go out and thrive and become successful, and that's key in our approach. So rest on a Google Drive. You can take it and go anywhere with it, is yours. Okay. As opposed to making you stick everything in my system and then I've got control over it. It's not a winning strategy for you. And so at the end of the day, it's not a winning strategy for us. And that's a approach that we have. But here in this process of using this and understanding, you can see it's a basic structure. You can do it yourself, but we have it modeled for you and we'll set it up for you the appropriate way so that you can actually come in and actually write a response there. And we have a staged process. And so I've got one here. It is staged at this point. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I'm interested in this one at Aiken. Now, before I actually do that, okay, I'm going to actually take a step and go back to my model. Okay. And I'm going to ask the model, to use, to basically get ready. Okay. And at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to step off. I actually use a desktop model as opposed to and I just see something there. Let's see. There we go. Okay. There's a new model of ChatGPT, changes by the minute, seems like. But I'm going to come here and I'm going to use my chat box to show you here maybe the indicators of success that I work with. Okay. Now, I have 10. Now, once you build your document that I've shown you, we come back and then we input that information in, and I say, here are my top 10. First is geographic location. I'm sorry, I don't want to get on the plane anymore. It's just a lot of things. I want to stay in the Southeast. I don't mind driving, and so forth, but I like to stay in the Southeast United States these days. Let's say, yeah, I've been to every single state in the United States, every single capital, and worked in 34 states. So I've had my fair share of travel, and I'm kind of over that. Organization size, I don't want to work with a big organization. I like to get to know people and understand them. I think I do a better job there. The budget, I want the project that I work with has to have approximately about $50,000. And that's what I like. And I don't want to be something, sometimes they go up to a little bit larger, but it absorbs too much of my time. And it's not a profitable situation as it may seem in the process. They expect more, in the process. And the government type, I like to work with cities and counties. I also want to know that a finance department is involved in it because I have a financial background and I tend to interact with them in a different way. The project timeline, about 6 months. If it's quicker than that, I can do it, but I need to have more money for it. Okay. I don't want anything longer than that. You tend to become too familiar with the organization, and I don't want to have that happen. I want to be able to get in, get out. I want a proposal timeline, a due date. It's got to give me 10 days to work on it. And then the remote work itself. I would like to see that it's remote in the process. Okay. In the meetings, I don't want to go there more than twice in the process. If they tell me I have to be 10 times and meet with the staff there, I don't necessarily want to do that. Okay. And the benefits, I don't like to do benefit review. I only do compensation. So these are things that are common to me. Okay. You're going to have your own 10. Okay. I value geographic location for the highest. Now, this is my scoring matrix. I said I like to have a little fun. So if I get all these here, 10 points on usually on each. If I get up to 90, this is you're the one I wanted to find. I'm going to pursue it. Okay. And not only that, I got a high degree of win on that. If that's the case, it's going to most likely I'm going to win it. Great chance, 80 to 89. I'll still do that, but I'm going to know when I bid, it's probably not going to be a high degree of win on that. It's going to be a lower one. And then 70, 79, frankly, these days I tend to pass on those, but pursue it selectively. So if it's one that I've worked with in the past and they're just doing things a little bit differently, then maybe I would pursue it, kind of thing. But if it's below 70, I'm not even going to mess with it. Okay. So I'm going to pass. So there's a barrier. You go tell your analytical tools what is important to you. And not only that, it's going to produce what's referred to as, a TSV, a tab separated value form file. And then you're going to actually copy that and you go keep it order of review so you can always know which ones you reviewed. And so that's the process of going in there and doing that. And then, as a understanding too, what's the typical evaluation criteria that a government's looking for. I'm going to keep my focus on the method and how I do things, but my qualifications, experience as an individual, but as a company as well, my background, and so forth. And so they're here and paying attention to those. And then understanding, and it's giving me some pointers as well. I asked it to remind me what all my indicators are about how to teach this. But it's important that you mirror the agency's evaluation criteria in your response. It's a critical, in fact. And you want to make the scoring, you'll help them in their ability to score, make it easier for them, because that's how they're typically doing, man. They're checking off. They can only evaluate you based on what they told you. So you want to keep that in front of you. You want to demonstrate low risk and high gradability in the process. So you don't want to, basically, you don't want to pull something out of and tell them that you can do something and you can't really do it. You don't want to risk that. Okay. So you want to be straightforward, tell them what you can do, and focus in on that in the process. You always want to show evidence. And in fact, I do a one session sometimes on this, the two most powerful words in preparing an RFP. And I don't know if anybody knows what they are. You can type in the chat right now. Let's see if we can give you some bonus points. But the two most powerful for something, and you tell them you can do it, and you add the words "for example" and give them a description of something that you've done. You just increase your chance of winning, and keep that in mind. Okay, so it's important. And then always tell them about some things that you've done and how you're going to implement things. Implementation in government is very, because they want to make sure they've got a successful strategy. You can't just be generic in the language that you use. Everybody's going to use more generic language in their presentations. You got to be specific in how you do that. So let's go. Let's go with this particular RFP. Let's start. I'm going to tell chat with our demonstration how this process worked. And now just know that you first of all, the best class I ever took was typing. Okay. I remember that, and I think I was in ninth grade, and boy, I've always used this skill. So maybe you don't type as fast, but I try to type it fast, but I do make errors, and chat tends to forgive me. It kind of understands the errors that I make over and over again. But I would also tell you that um I tend to write and type as if it's my friend, my understanding of somebody I'm working with in a coworker type of relationship. So it's important that you understand that. Not everybody does it that way, but I do. I know there's a lot of folks that say a lot of the memories is stored, it's taken up by us who says thank you and please, but I tend to write that way. And so forgive me as I go forward with some of this. But I'm gonna say here is an RFP I'm interested in. Um, please review using our indicators of success. Okay. And I'm going to pull that RFP up. This is the one I just downloaded. Okay. And I've got my directory here. Let's see here. Documents. Let's see. Sorry, desktop classes today. And this is the one. Okay. Always keep RFPs separate. Okay. I tend to be reminded of that because sometimes it'll kind of cross over. I don't think it's going to happen today because it's going to, chat's going to show off to you. Never make assumptions, but it's important that you continue to train it in the right way. Everything should be factually referenced. Okay. So I remind it, and there's nothing wrong with that. Taming the dragon in such a way, taking the mystery out of it, isn't more or less a somewhat an employee is doing this for you. So it gets me first an executive profile, okay, and of the actual RFP. Okay, it's due June 11th. It's a day after my birthday, so I'm gonna maybe have some luck there, get that done. But I'm gonna have to get it done earlier because I'm not gonna work on my birthday about this year. And going into that, let's see here. It tells me it's 485 employees. It's a little bit larger than I normally work with, but the number of job classifications fits my model. Okay. So I'm just kind of giving you the way I would evaluate this. Obviously, you don't know diddly squat about a classification compensation project, or maybe one or two of you do, but it's different. But I'm looking at it, I'm starting to think through it. I'm not letting chat just tell me, so he's summarizing things for me, but I'm going to see my own, I'm still going to have my own opinion about things. And so it's doing something. This is a city, excuse me, this one is a city government. Yeah. And they want me to benchmark against other cities. That's cool. I like to doing that. This is what I do: internal equity, salary structure. I don't see the words benefit. That's good. Okay. And some basic facts about the procurement, the evaluation criteria, the three different options, as you can see: 45% there, 35% there, so forth. Okay, that's important. These are the points I want to get. Now, here are my evaluation. Okay, so as I step into it, it's they're giving me 10. It didn't meet that 485 employees. I have mine is less than 250. So I got a low score on that. Okay. And so that's throwing my total score off. All right, all right. So I kind of understand where I'm scoring low at in this particular thing. I may personally kind of overcome that and say, yeah, but I like Aiken. I know it's only 2 hours away from where I'm at, and I've been there before. And even though it's got a lot of those employees are probably in one particular department. And so I'm gonna start thinking through certain things that might override my indicators of success. So I'm not just letting the AI tool drive my decision. I'm letting it help me and advise me in the process. Okay. And so I get these other areas gives me a 79 out of 100, almost at that 80, but not quite. And so that's an average statement. But in this case here, I'm going to most likely go for it. Okay, in the particular response. Okay, as I step into it, it's going to start giving me some recommendations to do. The recommendation actually is pursue strategically, and that's what I'm actually thinking in my head. That yeah, I'm still interested. Let me think about it and go into it. So I may actually step out and ask some others in my staff about in our areas about this. But because it has these basic things, well, it's going to do that. So I'm going to say let's build a winning strategy. So far, I'm not using it to actually write my RFP response right away. I'm asking it to evaluate, give me some recommendations, give me some understanding. Now, I'll probably actually take this and copy it over to my document that I have built in my folder so I don't lose it. Okay. Now I've got so many windows open here. Okay, I'm gonna start closing them, closing, 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 closing. Here we go. Okay, and I'm gonna actually start keeping my documents here so I can share with others in my Google Drive. Makes a lot of sense. Taking that mystery out, making everybody aware of what I'm doing. I'm not hiding it. And am I using these two different tools? It's going to give me a title, an executive profile, measure my success. And then I'm going to actually go ahead and say, you know what, I've decided I'm going to do an RFP. I'm going to create a document. I'm going to build everything here to start with. Okay. And I'm going to call it maybe the RFP response. It's going to be June 11th. And then I'm going to actually, even potentially go ahead and start decorating it up a little bit and give my image, upload it from the drive here. And my particular Eagle, I like to use my Eagle. Okay. And I'll put that in there. There we go. Go on. And almost always I'm going to do a cover letter to start off anything. I know this. My process, even if my AI systems don't tell me this. And then I'm also going to do a cover sheet. And then I'm also going to start off always with an executive summary. I know actually I'm going to have a table of contents, and then I'm going to have always this great little tool here in my Google Drive. It's going to give me some page elements, table of contents. There we go. It'll keep everything organized for me. And then whenever I actually do write with my tools, it'll give me the heading, the proper heading, the right way to do things. And that's going to help me out. I'm going to keep my font somewhat always Arial, maybe 11 point. And I'm always going to go back and, constantly change that. So it's got the consistent font. Select all, normal text, Arial 11, and then sort it that way. Okay. So here's going to be my basic format. And I'm going to start always with an executive summary. This is your typical way of responding to a government. And then you're going to start your technical proposal digitally. Okay. Now I'm going to actually, this is the way I normally do it, but I'm also going to pay attention to what the government has actually requested me to do. So in this process, I'm going to actually go through and make sure I keep that document open. There it is. And then I'm going to use the format of the proposal. I can guarantee you that it's told me how to do things. Okay. It's the scope of the work. Okay. And then what they want me to do in terms of response. There it is. Submission. Okay, how it's going to be submitted, labeling, proprietary, questions, clarification. Okay, here's the content. So I want to cover letter. Look at there, project approach. Okay, I'm actually going to use the same titles, no matter what the models tell me to do. I'm going to use the same titles that the government has told me to do. Okay, and I'm going to close that. Close that. Oop, I just closed the wrong one. Shoot. Okay, here we go. Good news. I had it saved. So go back in there. Open it back up. but I'm going to keep the actual RFP in front of me first. Oh, and the whole way I'm notice chat's doing its thing over there in the background. I like to use ChatGPT, also use Claude. All of them can do the same thing. And sometimes I compete against each other, just to be clear. Okay. So let them tell me which one's better. As I go into it, they will actually. I go in here. Let's see. Here's the selection criteria. Here's the breakdown. Okay. So cover letter, project approach, understanding of project goals. Okay. And getting the point there. Okay. So I'm going through and I'm making sure that those are all there. Now let's just go back over to their model to see what's happening. Okay. And so they give me a winning strategy. Okay. A core positioning strategy. And do not position myself as a general HR. They want practical invitation, internal equities. Analyze it for me. Tell me how to approach this in the right way. Gave me some good ideas. Now I'm still going to read that RFP because I'm interested in it. This is my business and it's important. I'm not going to rely, just like you wouldn't rely on somebody in your staff. Usually you're going to count on them, but you're not going to, and you're going to depend on them, but you're going to actually probably check it out yourself a little bit too. That's important. Maybe a large organization, that's not always true, but ours is typically small. And the buck has to stop somewhere there. Okay. And so I'm going to align the response directly to the evaluation criteria. That's important to understand in government contracting, because in government contracting, they can only measure you on what they tell you they can measure you on. So, see, this is what you got to get the results for. And as you step into it, now we have gone way over the time. So if any of you have to pop out, I really understand that. And but I'm going to continue on as we maintain this. But this full video is going to be available to you as soon as we're finished. And I'm getting to near the end though, just as we get to there. And so we got this basic understanding of how we're going to do this. It's going to give me an architect and see it's picked up because it knows that I've instructed it to essentially always follow the proposal format within the RFP itself. And I've trained my model to make sure it always does that. Okay. And you want to do that as well. And then they're going to continuously use the same repetitive type of approach to respond to this and in the evaluation. So I've shown you today and what I've tried to do, and it now it becomes a strategic pursuit recommendation and move there. And I'm going to actually copy this again, always copy my results that I'm getting within the document folder so that I can keep my notes here for everybody else to see what I'm learning as well. And as you know, you can actually share your chat with others on your team if you want to. But what I've tried to do today is to take you through a process of actually writing an RFP using the AI, taking the mystery. Nothing I did here. I'm turning 62 next week, so in a couple of weeks, and so it's you get to a point where you don't want to constantly learn. I've learned how to do this. No one sat down and showed me. I haven't taken any classes. I just sat down, started doing it, and it's because the sky isn't the limit; it's just the beginning. And I'm a really big believer in that, and trying to really learn new tools and make sure that happens. But all of us don't have that time, I guess. I know, and this is our business. So I just would like to point out that we do provide technical assistance, and you can come and see those listed here at GovAdvice, which is our primary mechanism to provide that, where we help. And a part of that specifically, not only is just the getting you kind of started, which is what we really done here today in an hour, and I really kind of work with you one-on-one to help you understand that. But we also have an experiential writing class. I'm a big believer in experiential learning, meaning that you learn by doing as opposed to having someone just instruct you in a classroom environment, but we are actually taking a bit together, all with a basic understanding in that proverb that I mentioned earlier is to teach you, feed you. If I give you something straight up, I give it to you for a day and you don't learn. But if I teach you how to do it, then you can do it for a lifetime, and that's important to me, important to our business and our model. That is our proverb. That's our mission of our business, and we help you understand how to do all the things that I just told you how to do one-on-one, and you take it and you run with it forever. And believe me, what I just shown you here, it has become it's easier to use as we've got Google Drives and we've got now we've got AI tools and we've got quick access to a lot of different RFPs that we can run. I can run 20 RFPs a day and do an analytical on them. Believe me, that wasn't always the case, but I have used this methodology though for 27 years, and it works, and has proven to be successful in how to win the contracts. So I want to thank you for attending today. For those of you who are on YouTube Live, we've been a full hour now, and I'd like to stop that. But please subscribe and that helps us maintain our viewership. But I'm gonna stop the live stream. So